In a world dominated for decades by American power, one man may be accidentally shifting the tide, as per Canadian scholar Sean Narin. Narin recently asked a very pertinent question: is Donald Trump doing the world a favor by isolating the United States? It might sound ironic to a few people, even outrageous to a few others, but we urge you to patiently give an ear to what we are trying to say. As we'll explore in this video, Trump's aggressive policies, confrontational diplomacy, and isolationist agenda may be doing what few would have even dared to imagine a few years ago, dismantling the West's disproportionate grip on global power and offering the rest of the world a chance to breathe. Donald Trump's administration has been slapping tariffs on allies and adversaries alike: Canada, China, the EU, Mexico, and more. These moves tanked global stock markets, rattled the US bond market, and disrupted fragile global supply chains. The world economy staggered under the weight of American unpredictability. Trump has economically and politically threatened America's traditional allies. From NATO to NAFTA, shattering Western unity, Trump has fractured the post-World War II world order that the US once led. But here's where it gets interesting. Could this chaos be an opportunity for the global South? At least Sean Narin believes it would be. Many in the West still cling to the belief that the United States has been a benevolent superpower. And sure, some countries, mostly wealthy Western ones, have thrived under American dominance, but for much of the global South, the story is one of pain and exploitation at the hands of America. Military coups, economic sanctions, regime changes, many driven by American interests, have left long-lasting scars on nations across Africa, Latin America, and Asia. From Chile to Iraq, and from India to Vietnam, countless countries in the global South were the victims of American interests. For the countries from the global South, a weakening of US global influence might not be a loss, but a long overdue liberation. The West may be in the midst of losing its dominant position, and while many Western commentators mourn this as a tragedy, much of the world sees it differently. They envision a more equitable global order, one without the moral, racial, and cultural double standards that have long defined Western dominance. A world where US and Western power is checked and balanced could be more peaceful, and perhaps, over time, even more prosperous. With fewer loyal allies, it will become increasingly harder for the US to wage wars under the pretext of spreading democracy. The post-Trump world might very well be a multipolar world. Political scientist Stacey Goddard recently argued that we're entering a post-American world divided into spheres of influence. The US, Russia, and China will likely dominate these zones, but not equally, and definitely not without limits. The US still seeks dominance in Asia, but it's increasingly being challenged by China, and now even India in the Indian Ocean region. Russia, though aggressive, is constrained: 144 million people, and an economy barely 1/6 the size of the EU. There are limits to what Russia can manage to achieve. And its grinding war in Ukraine reveals those limits. Russia may disrupt, but it can't dominate Europe. China, meanwhile, is playing a longer game, patiently waiting out America to fall under its own debt burden and cede space to China. Despite Trump's tariffs, China stood firm, and after a tense standoff, a 90-day tariff pause vindicated its defiant negotiating strategy, and global markets soared. China wants a stable international system. It's not looking to tear it down, it's looking to lead it, and its approach is less interventionist than America's. While China pressures rivals in the South China Sea and Taiwan, it rarely uses military force. In fact, it hasn't engaged in full-scale warfare since 1979. China is helping develop the global South, not for charity, but for markets, as it exports renewable technologies. Some of the poorest nations may leapfrog past fossil fuels, addressing climate change and growth simultaneously. In response to Trump's erratic policies, China, Japan, and South Korea started discussing new trade pacts. Xi Jinping toured Southeast Asia to promote regional cooperation. Asia remains wary of China, but it refuses to retreat from global trade. The US may be isolating itself, but the rest of the world is not. New institutions are emerging to fill the vacuum: BRICS with its expanded membership and new development bank, China's AIIB and Belt and Road Initiative, and a renewed belief in the United Nations as the core of global diplomacy. Even Europe is reassessing its relationship with America and China. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen declared, "The West as we knew it no longer exists." Canada has proposed a new bloc of like-minded states to preserve Western dominance in trade and institutions, but this, once again, sidelines the global South. Many nations still suffer the legacy of colonialism and must operate in a system built to keep them weak, while some of them may not be liberal democracies. But many of them adhere to international law more consistently than the West does. They need fairness, they need rules, they need predictability. A true rules-based order is not just a talking point for them, it's a necessity. Moving the world economy away from the US will be complex, disruption is inevitable, but breaking the monopoly on global power is essential if we want a more just and inclusive international order. It may take decades, but a new world is being born, a world where the rules aren't dictated by one superpower, but negotiated among many. And ironically, it may have been Donald Trump's recklessness that jump-started this process. Donald Trump didn't intend to create a better world, but by isolating the United States, he may have done just that. For forcing the world to imagine life beyond American dominance, the world might, just might, owe him a small measure of thanks. What do you think? Is Trump's isolationism a blessing in disguise? Let us know in the comments.